Okay, so I made a very short video yesterday, and I think that the message was good. I believe it was true, and I believe that it will stand the test of time. And we're going to find out soon enough. But there are many of you that think that there's only an insy and an outsy belly button. And the truth is that there's probably 6 to 9 different kinds of belly buttons, okay? Some of the ones that you think are insies are actually not insies. But, you know, you need to do your homework a little bit. And it would do you some good to do homework on this subject, particularly. Let's talk about the possibility of you doing that homework on the animals, because mammals have to have a belly button. The only mammal that does not have a belly button, as far as I know, is the duck-billed platypus. And why? Because even though it's a mammal, it's hatched out of an egg. That right there is Inky playing tricks with your head. That's what that is. And since he always does that because of his need to ruin something's, life by playing sinister, Dr. Frankenstein, he's always going to do that. So just know that other than a duck-billed platypus, all mammals have belly buttons. Now, do they have deep, whole belly buttons? No, they do not. They have belly buttons that are outies. They're not as large as humans in most cases, but they all have a natural birth. Unless they're a clone, which we know that you can go on Netflix right now and see the King clone documentary, and you should do that. You need to also study not only orphan trains and orphan infantoriums, like, during the turn of the century all the way up in these areas that, where they had the world's fairs. But you should also do your homework on what some people will call mud flood. I tend to want to lean towards the information that this place that we live in is the actual ancient Egypt and Israel and Babylon and all them places that you read about in the Bible right here. Now, how interesting that we have all these very old monuments over there off of the Nile River. But remember, you can look at pictures of the Sphinx, for example, and you can see for yourself that the Sphinx has been upgraded. And it has been for a long time. And it continues to be. The first time I realized that was when I started looking at the pyramid at Chichen Itza, because I realized that it was a dirty mound back 100 years ago. And while there was probably a place just exactly like what is there now. They made it out of mud, not stone. Mud bricks. Keeping in mind mud floods, which is basically an overturning of Tartarian society, which is going to be your Native American society. I say a Native American because that's what they are to me, even more than these blended Chinese that are coming over for hundreds of years from the Pacific that, you know, we're told are Native Americans. Now, that said, is it easy to summarize that there are two groups of people? I'm talking about red and what you would call Moorish, okay? And even the Moors are tend to be lighter in color than the dark, you know, for no disrespect intended, okay, for the blacker, you know, Americans. Just know that the entire Book of Mormon, now whether or not you believe it's true, or you believe parts of it are true, and yet there are parts that might not be true. However you believe that, you know, the Olmecs were considered, you know, black people. So, you know, and I took a course. I literally became very interested in Native American history because of a fellow's book, James Adair, that wrote this book. Well, he probably compiled it over a 70-year period from the early 1800s to the late 1800s, where he lived with the Native Americans and equated them with the Israelites. Now, he, in so much as said in his book, they were the Israelites. I'm talking about these referred to as Cherokee primarily, but there were other groups involved as well. People, you need to do your homework on where Egypt, you know, originally was. Was it over in Africa? No. No. It wasn't. It was right here. And you've got enough proof here that if you'll look at it, you'll find out for yourself. I personally went to the one high school, as far as I know, that you can go to in the entire country and be called a pharaoh. I went to a high school by the name of Raleigh, Egypt in Memphis, Tennessee. And again, like I said, I was not originally born there, but my father went to college there at Southern College of Optometry, and that's where I ended up settling there, and also in another side of town, Memphis, Tennessee, referred to as Germantown. They were called the Red Devils, though many times I see them called Blue Devils. I don't think it really matters. We could talk about that, but let me see if I can get back around to that. So if you know, were paying attention to the things that were always dug up, I'll give you an example. The year my father was born, in a place in Tennessee, we'll call it Eastern Tennessee, around the Clinch River, they found a Egyptian site, a temple site, and they had a British Egyptologist come and certify that it was in fact. So immediately after that happens, the TVA literally floods that area where the temple was. And we see that that's what's been done to the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. Now, let me just explain this. If they will go to that extreme to hide the fact that this was the actual Egypt talked about in the Bible, then it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they will at any cost hide this information, particularly through the Smithsonian, who is well known for hiding certain things that are dug up and found in all these newspapers across the country. And then they just suddenly disappear. So they're written about in the newspapers, and then that's the last you ever hear about them. Again, the people that rule this place they're ultimately retarded. Donald Marshall explains it like this: they wanted to keep living, they did not want to die, and so they made a choice, and the choice was to live out their life through clones. Now I want you to imagine, a great example of that is Britney Spears. We know that Britney at one point sold her soul, went to the underground bunkers in Canada, and had to be a sex clone. Donald Marshall speaks about her many, many times. Michael Jackson, many of them. Even Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure. I recall him talking about the Don. Definitely Putin being there. But the ringleader was Elizabeth, the Queen of England. He said that she was retarded in 7 different ways, which is totally and completely believable. Because when we consider how old she may actually be, and how many times she may have actually been transferred to a clone, and then we begin to look at Britney Spears' behavior and how she doesn't really look like herself completely. It's like a version of her, and yet she has to be handled by her father. And Donald Marshall says, well, they always are assigned handlers because they don't want them to do something retarded in public, like, bite somebody's finger off, or, act out in some ridiculous, retarded way, which is what they do, and they're good at. So they have to have handlers. Yeah. So welcome to the clone world. And if you haven't read any of Donald Marshall's books, which I have and I do read, you can get them at Amazon. They're not expensive, and they're worthwhile because they literally tell you everything that you would want to know about a clone, and understand that there are many, many models of clones, all the way from organic robotoids, which you can see in the Netflix Black Mirror in the last season. I cannot remember all the actors' names, but I can tell you that it's the one about the sea, where they're space astronauts and their clones get to their organic robotoid. These would be like robotic clones, get to be with their families in between their working situation, but they can't quite come home because of the working conditions that they're working in. Now, personally, I don't think they're working up here. I think they're working out there. Even in as much as it's possible that they are in the outer limits of the, dome, which may just be, we may assume that the dome is basically the flat earth. But when you start looking at Terra Infinita, you realize that all them places they talk about up in the stars are actually right down here around the flat earth. And then there's a white boundary on that map of everything. And outside of that, nothing but black. That's outer darkness. Do you think that one day that they will want to colonize that? Rest assured they will. Rest assuredly that they will. But that gives you an idea about extraterrestrials and where they're actually from. They can be from the bottom of the sea, like Atlantis. The new Atlantis Aquaman movie has him telling the powers that be, the United Nations, giving a speech to the world that the Atlanteans are going to make themselves known. And it's going to, it's part of the one world, New World Order, one world thing to not only tell the truth about what's going on with these Atlanteans, but also to combine all of the people of the earth, even the chimeras. Now, you can make a case that every, human being is a chimera. Because, let's look at it from this perspective. They're basically fused with one of three hominid, great apes. Clearly, when you start looking at their belly buttons, you realize, and you can do this, you can go Google it on Google and look at the images. You can go do that. And you will see what an innie versus an outie looks. Well, you won't see an innie, but you'll see an outie, and you'll see what it looks like. And some of them will look like they're inside. And one person online did make a comment about this, and it is true that it may look like an innie because there's been weight gained in the midsections now. But this idea of hernias, that's just a cover story to hide what's actually going on. That's all it is it's just a cover story to hide that. So the other cover story is the idea that you can get a hernia. This is mostly women that get this hernia from the cycle of life, right? From being pregnant. So why men would get hernias this way, it's not the same reason. It's got to be another reason. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's got to be another reason. Now, all I can tell you is that whatever I want to know, eventually I'll get around to knowing it. If you wait and you're patient with me, I'll find out. Things just show up on my desk miraculously, seems like. Whenever I've talked about them enough, they tend to come around. And not every prophecy that we hear about comes true, people. No. Like, let me give you an example. I'm just going to give you, I'm probably changing the subject here, and I'll try to get back to the subject that I was covering. Because I know it drives some of you crazy that I can have a conversation about many different subjects, and you're not ready to jump off those subjects with me. My general videos are long, and if I talk about one subject the whole video, you're not going to stick. You don't anyway, really. Yes, some of you do get back to looking at it when you have time, and I understand and, of course, respect that. But some of you make your comments before you actually know the truth about what's going on with my video. For example, someone asked me to please, it would be nice if I would state the books that I was going to cover. And in that very video, at the very beginning of it, I had stated, but see, you don't come to the beginning of the video, so you don't always know that I do that. Just trying to let you see things through my eyes. You want something from me, and yet you won't accept it the way I present it. So what can I say about that except, gosh, I'll keep trying to do better. That's really all I can do. I don't mind your comments, but I just want you to know that, it would help if some of you paid more attention to the video before you started asking for things you assume are not there. Anyway, changing the subject. There are at least two other subjects that I want to talk about. One of them is the idea about the elite rushing to fulfill biblical prophecy, and how, for example, in my opinion, they could not get everything done that they needed to get done. They still want to use the solar eclipses to control, to a degree, their, script, okay? So, of course they want to do that, but then when they're not ready, it throws them back and it causes their script to change. Like, I'll give you an example. In my mind, back in 2017, where we got the solar eclipse that happened in 2017, that should have been the beginning of the Great Tribulation. But again, they weren't ready. If you'll notice, exactly 1 year before that, maybe a little less, Trump was elected to be president. But they needed him to have 8 years to get through the 7-year period, right? Hello? Pay attention. So what happens is it becomes convenient that they don't make him responsible for crashing the, economy, because that's not what he does, do you see? So they had to get him out of there. Hence, the, fake elections that probably have always been fake. And to be honest with you, I think that many of us already knew about that way before we actually got to see it with our own eyes. So they couldn't very well have their savior having to crash the economy, right? So they had to get him out of there. And then there's this debate going on behind the scenes. White hats, black hats, who's really running the show? Or is it a psyop like the Bolsheviks? You see, there's always a script going. And they have to sometimes think very fast on their feet. If you'll remember, you can go back and look at Hidden Hand, and they basically said that they weren't going to give dates, and the guy turns around and tells you that in 2008, San Francisco is going to be unrecognizable. Well, as we well know, it didn't happen then. It might be a little hard to recognize it now, but it'll get even harder before they're done with it. So you understand, it's not going as fast as they want it to, and yet they want to take advantage of these things they've already set up. I'm talking about the signs and lying wonders that they use to create the solar and lunar eclipses, so that they can make their, script go like they're in control of it and they're in charge of it. Do you see what I mean? So now, according to their script, we're approaching the end of that 7 years, right? Or getting close to it, which will be the election in 2024. But there's this problem. We have a solar eclipse coming in April, the 8th of April. And interesting how when you look at the X, which is your Zeus letter, right? X is the Zeus letter, right? Does anybody that comes on my site not know that? You know where it says in Revelation that, the number of the beast is 666? But then you look in the Greek and you realize, no, 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 no. They just pulled a magic trick on you. It doesn't say 666 in the Greek. It says X-E-S, which spells Zeus, right? Take it and flip it and turn it backwards. It says sex, which is what their crime is. They had 6 sex with hominid beings here. That's what their crime is. People will say, well, those are daughters of Cain. It doesn't matter. They had no business injecting themselves into this realm. It was not legal for them to do. And they know that they're not legal doing it. They know that they've caused a lot of trouble here, and they know that they are going to have to pay for it. So this is what I'm going to tell you about the eclipse coming up. Yes, it's going to be the end of the United States. Hopefully, unless they screw it up again and don't get their timeline ready, it's going to be the end of the United States. Thank goodness for that. Their lease is up. They got to go. Just like in the Julia Roberts movie, they got to go. So what? Good riddance. Now, understand that's going to create a vacuum. This is the choice land over all lands. This is the choice land. So are we to expect that we'll get visitors? Yes. Many of these visitors that will come armed. Count on that. Count on that. They are going to protect themselves just like you'd be doing if you came here and you did the same thing, which of course you did do this. Because remember, this isn't your land either. Your land is in the snow caps, baby. That's where you belong. All you white people, including me, that's our land. That's what we were promised. That's Japheth's land. Okay? So what are you doing here? Well, you came down here with your guns and your magic. You stinking Freemasons. Don't try to deny it. I'm sick of y'all lying and denying about your stupid, shit that you do. And now the pipers come home and you have to pay. So that's what that solar eclipse is all about. What does X mark the spot mean? Besides, here's the treasure. Here's the pirate's treasure. Here's where something's hidden that isn't apparent knowledge. Now, easily that X that this is going to cause, that goes across, could easily be right there. Look at where it's crossing. Cairo, Illinois. Now, you want to do your homework? I always try to do it the fastest possible way, but I don't necessarily ignore any avenue that I think will get me the information that I need. But I like to go to TikTok because there's a lot of like-minded people on TikTok putting their heads together and going, what does all this mean? And I would do that if I were you. So put in Cairo, Illinois, and find out that it's part of Egypt. Go ahead and do that. And notice that the X that marks the spot is right there. But now keep in mind that you're also just down the road from Arkansas, which an entire underground, the entire state is an underground bunker. Literally all of the United States could be an underground bunker, bar none. I mean, I don't know, maybe there'll be a few places where they don't have, they haven't been drilling for well over hundreds of years. Well, what else can they do? They know that they know a couple of things. They know that when this angry mob wakes up, they're going to be looking for them. Now, we already know they're going to be in Hawaii. You see how they put themselves there in Hawaii so that they could protect themselves there? But many of these people can't get to Hawaii. They don't have the means, so they have to have bunkers right here. You can find out about anybody's bunker that you want to on TikTok. But here's the thing. Many of you are going to brandish your swords and your guns and your weapons when these foreigners come. Because why? This is a what? This is the precious lands above all other lands. Above all other. Do you understand? And they always have been. From the Mayans to the Tolmecs to the Olmecs to the whomever. It's always been. But it's also been said in the Book of Mormon that every civilization that's ever lived here has been destroyed because of what they call secret combinations, which is basically what the fallen angels did when they binded themselves with oaths, with curses. Talking about secret societies. Talking about secret combinations is what the Book of Mormon calls it. So X marks the spot. That's where the unknown treasure is. That's where hopefully all you bastards that have got something to hide because you live a double life that we now know about, hopefully you'll all go and get your asses under the ground and we will never have to see your faces again. And that would be okay with me. Because you had your chance and now you have to be judged. Yes. So part of my, lesson that I'm giving today is also for years because of a story. Again, another lie. That all eclipses are caused by the moon getting between the earth and the sun. Well, that's a lie. So if you will remember, and I can pull this out right now, I might as well do it because I know some of you are going to be whining when I don't. So I'll go ahead and I'll do it now. Okay. I guess I'll read it to you. Okay. Chapter 25 in the Secrets of the Book of Enoch. So if you want to get your book out, pause it and go get your book out. Chapter 25, God relates to Enoch how out of the very deepest parts came forth the visible and the invisible. It says, and I commanded in the very lowest parts. Now, understand that's where we are. That the visible thing should come down from the invisible, and adoil. Now, some of you wanted to know, what did I mean, adoil? That means add oil. Add oil. What does that mean? That means anointed. The light of the sun. Okay? The great central sun divides itself into other suns. Them is my daddies. Okay? And my mamas. That's who they are. They're my hierarchy. I don't pretend to be great like them. But of course, the potential is always there. Because I am like them. Now, many of you will say, well, no, you're not really like them because you don't have love in your heart. Well, that's just not true. Because I've made this information available to everyone, not just the eternally retarded have been excluded from this. Okay? They've been allowed to come here, and as long as they behave themselves, they can learn a thing or two, which might get them back to a place where they can get back into the graces, starting with the dietary. But I don't know. I don't know if you can or you can't. I don't actually know. So I realize that everything I say that I include you in could be a waste of time anyway. But I still do it. And I want you to remember that when you think about me. Anyway, let's continue. It says, and I commanded from the lower parts that the visible thing should come down and from the invisible. And Adoil came down very great, and I beheld him, and lo, he had a belly full of great light. Great light. Now, the earth, or at least this realm, has a belly button. I want you to think about that. Is it a deep hole, or is it what is it? I just want you to think about that. We'll come back and talk about that later. Anyway, Adoil is the light of creation. That's what, by definition, he is. So by that definition, he is a creator. He's not the only one, but he is a creator. And this is what Hidden Hand's talking about when he talks about the great central sun. And I said to him, become undone, Adoil, and let the visible come out of you. And he came undone, and there was a great light, and I was in the midst of the great light. And as there is born from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creations, which I had thought to create. So light of creation is probably talking about your chakras. Now, are we in belief that the chakra system that we know today is absolutely right? Why should we believe that? When we know that the salveggio with the music is different than what they say it is. They don't want you to have any secrets. And yet I tell you every secret that I know. Because in my heart of hearts, I would want to treat everybody the same. I just have this one problem. I hate a bully. But I've often said that if you adopted natural law, you wouldn't have to worry anymore. You wouldn't have to live in fear anymore. Because there'd be nobody out to hurt you because you're not hurting anybody. Do you get it? Anyway, let's continue. It says, go thence up higher and fix yourself high above the throne and be a foundation for the highest things. So the key words here are a foundation for the highest things. Now we're going to talk about the other guy. It says it's just chapter 26 and it says God summons again from the very deepest the second time that arches. Now that'd be your archons, your archangels, heavy and very red should come forward. Notice that he is red. He's not black. He's red. Like infrared, right? And I summoned from the lowest a second time and said, let arches come forth. And he came forth very hard, and he came forth from the and red and hard from the invisible. And this is the spirit of creation. This is why I say I'm a soul man, and souls does not mean that you have a spirit. Likewise, spirit does not mean you have a soul. These are two different entities, people. Yes, they're trying to fold themselves together with this breeding program that you've heard me talk about over and over and over again. Poor Rh negative women, the woman. Poor them. Because why? Because they never find love in these loveless marriages. Oh, their children are darling. They're so cute that you just want to tweak their little cheeks. But who knows? Maybe we can clean them up. I don't know. And it says, and I said, be open, arches, and let be born from you. And he came down undone, and he came forth very, very great and dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. Pay attention. And I saw that it was good, and I said to him, go thence down below, and make yourself firm, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened. And he went down and fixed himself and became a foundation for the lower things. And below, listen, the darkness, there is nothing else. Well, you already know that he also makes himself red. Now, so this is the part that I didn't understand. So I'm going to clarify this right now. So we all know that there's a moon, right? But that, moon is on a 28-day cycle that the actual black hole sun that is inside the navel of the earth, okay, that is slightly red, okay, and you can see that from the blood red moons that I have mistakenly, though I never saw in the sky, I mistakenly believed that that's where they were being projected from. But the truth is that they're being projected from the black hole sun that is in the navel of the Earth realm at the North Pole. And this is what causes the stages of the moon. We're on a flat Earth, people. The things that they've described cause the eclipse are not possible. This that I'm describing to you and how it's projected from underneath the ground in the hollow earth, where there is a little circular hole, a navel in there. Do you understand? Oh yes, we all have different navels. But the reason that some of us think about the moon, is the moon, are we finding out that the moon is actual? We were told it was plasma back in the 50s. Now they're trying to make it into a solid object, which the entire inner part of it, the inner part of it is, claimed, the backside of it is claimed. And apparently we, according to Stanley Kubrick, we went there. People, the black hole sun that the Nazis worship to get the highest possible technology that they could get. People say, oh, they're so brilliant. That's a huge mistake. Thinking that these people are brilliant, okay? They're getting a lot of help from you can make a case that Archus is a god, a very powerful god. And, there's a different, this is the dark side of the Force, okay? I'm just trying to help you understand. And could easily be, it's referred to in many books as the smoky god, which anybody that's ever gone into the hollow earth, has written about it. It could easily be Mars. But not only is it round, clearly, but it's projecting through a round hole. I'm just saying. And I'm sure it has some sort of power over its projection. It would be a terrible mistake to think otherwise. So this is not the moon. No, this is not the moon. But is it a creator? Yes, it is a creator. It's a creator of all the lower forms, which may finally explain why AI is so prevalent at the moment. Because they're finding out they're losing the battle and there's really not much else for them to do. And it could be a way for them to preserve their lives longer. Either way, it's not for me, okay? Let's just put it that way. So understand that this X marks the spot can easily be. And by the way, it makes the shape of an aleph, which is a Hebrew letter, A. And if you combine that with the annular eclipse that's coming later this year, you'll get if you take away the X from 7 years ago, you'll get a Ta or a Tav, which is another way to say I am the Alpha and the Omega, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best proof that we have. Now, many of you are going to say, well, that's the coming of Jesus. But you don't understand who Zeus is. Zeus is not a solar god, okay? He may be a little bit of a, mistaken identity. But that's not what Zeus is. Zeus is, if you look, Jupiter Zeus is not only found, you know, in the chakras, the throat chakra, which we can talk about. And it, by the way, its color is blue. Is that right? Something doesn't quite seem to be right about that color to me. Now, when I saw a scientist break it down and say, no, 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 it's not blue. It's infrared, but it does protect blue things. When he knew his stuff about the science behind it. And he came up with another hypothesis that I hadn't heard anyone else discussing. Now, is it red? Is that laser that's being used on Hawaii red? Yes. Does Arches have to protect his people too? Yes. But he's got to know that they're going to have to go live underground. They're going to have to be separated from the solar people. Because, you know, because of their behavior. Just saying. Because of their lack of understanding about natural law. Okay, let's just leave it there. And clearly, they've violated every natural law there is with everything that they do. And we see, when we start looking at the blood types that are creating these heinous crimes against humanity, all the way down to your lawyers and your judges, bilking us out of, you know, our hard-earned cash to take care of our families, especially now, trying to crash our world by basically, think about it, they're just going to leave. Do you understand? Because they know we don't want them. If they listen to one of my videos, they know we've said we don't want you. We're not following you. Okay? But there will be a vacuum that will have to be filled here. And it's either us filling it, or we'll get foreigners. Many of them will take us out of this wonderful land and have a home for us somewhere else. Why? Why would they even do that? Because they know as long as we're here, there's a blessing for them. You know, they know it. They've always known it. This is why Esau ultimately did not kill his brother. He came to the conclusion, well, maybe there is, you know, something worthwhile with leaving my brother alive. Oh, look at the people I've got working for me now. The sheep shields. Well, I'm just saying, makes sense to me. But I don't think that Jacob had much of a choice. If all of them stories are true, he had to have his brother watch over his family. And even though it doesn't seem like they've done a very good job for us, it looks like they hurt themselves more than they hurt anybody. To me, that's just my observation. Anyway, so X marks the spot. We know that the Aleph and the Tav, pardon me, is the same thing as saying I'm the Alpha and the Omega. Does that mean that Anu is going to show up on our doorstep? To make sure that he doesn't get himself in any deeper than he already is. Making sure that we are preserved in a manner. They've already said that they're not going to hurt the hominid people. Like I said, now maybe they're pissed off and they, want to get rid of us first. I don't know. But either way, they haven't broken their word yet. I'm just telling you this. Now, yes, I've made a big fuss about it because I want to make sure that they don't break their word. But, maybe they want to face off with us and, rip our throats out. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. But clearly, this Alaf and Tav person, if it's Jesus, it'll be Anu. That's who you're going to see. You might even see Enki and Enlil. And they'll have a conundrum because they'll have to figure out what to do. It won't be that easy. Don't go thinking that it's going to be that easy for them, because it's not. I think it really comes down to what we want. And that's why we don't really want to take their cash. We don't really want to take their digital money, because we may be stuck with them for another 1,000 years. And to be honest with you, I'm not interested in that. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. There's more to this story, but I'm not going to cover it right now. Now, there's another thing that I want to talk to you about. And keeping in mind that, if I'm right about Archus being able to project, which I do believe that I am, I'd like for somebody to prove me wrong, the eclipses of the sun and the moon from the navel of the earth, called the opening of the hollow earth. And if you go on Google right now, there's no ice up at the North Pole. There's just fake water. There's no hole opening. There's none of that. So everything Bird described, Google's hiding. Now, I did a video, which I'm going to throw back up here if I'm able. I did it in 2016. I made this video in 2016. And it was the culmination of my work. You'll recognize it because, my hair's a little darker and I may be a pinch younger. This was all before I, went on my 60-day vacation in a, correctional institute for driving without a seatbelt. That they accused me of being, because I questioned, they accused me of being contemptful. After all the crap that they did to my daughter, and by the way, that's not over yet. And I know for a brief second that they were putting hallucinogens in the water. And I know that I have a memory of about this much being somewhere that I did not ask to go. So that's another whole subject. It is what it is. But I want to talk about the fact, if some of you, and somebody did ask me about my calendar that I did, and I still have it on this computer, but remember now, we keep getting those leap years, which keeps changing that to the point where now we are finally this year to the point where what I would consider to be the first day of the year is now March 17th, which is in this country St. Patty's Day. Interesting when you think about Dan not being one of the brothers that are mentioned in Revelation. Think about it. The sea goat, the sea goat. What is the greatest of all time? That's what that means. Dan, the sea goat, greatest of all time. Anyway, so, and then we look and we count those Passover days later, and we see that there's, on the 15th day, we see that we've literally got a solar, I'm sorry, a lunar I'm sorry, let me back up. So on April Fool's will be the 15th of Nisan. But see, the Jews don't keep these. So it's further down the road. Passover is further down the road. So who knows what kind of count they're using. And I base this, I'm going to put this video out, and you can look at it from 2016, what I was looking at that time. Now, one of the things I learned since then, and there may be other things, I just haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I talk about the pyramid being a 3, shape. But that is, think about it, the 5 and the 3 is just about, see, on the menorah, they're linked together. 5, 3, 5, 3. Do you understand? And that's where you get your O positives and your O negatives. Yeah. And again, that chakra, when I look at the chakras, I'm going, okay, so I get the red, the orange, or the red, the orange, the yellow, and then it goes to blue. And then it goes to some weird colors, which violet and the purple that's red. And I ask myself, well, if they'll lie about the musical notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, if they'll lie about that, they'll lie easily about the chakras, the color of the rainbow. And I find it interesting that the 4th chakra is green as opposed to yellow. Isn't that interesting? You would have thought yellow would be it. Something strange with those colors going on. And of course, the blue light that is supposed to be the chakra being the one that is destroying everything but the blue colors. Now we find out that it's probably infrared. Just very strange. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that is going to conclude my video for today. We talked about the belly buttons. We talked about the eclipses and what causes them. And we read from the Secrets of the Book of Enoch, chapter 25 and 26, with regard to Ad-Oil, whom is the meaning of anointed. In other words, a great central sun. Or a logos or a logoi of the great central sun, which is when it splits off and creates more suns to create. Makes perfect sense to me. Even the name sun. But Arches, we now know, is under the earth. It's not the moon. It's not the moon. The moon probably followed Arches and is trying to find her way back. Makes sense. I tell you what, I spent a night on the mountain where the moon was. I can tell you right now, it was beautiful, and the effect that it had on the plants on the side of the stream were amazing, effervescently amazing. And the trees lit up like they had an aura. Just saying. Anyway, all right, so that's going to conclude it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to the next time. And do I feel like that this eclipse, well, they've still got to get their act together. Okay, does it symbol the end of the United States? Yeah, sure it does. Absolutely. There can be no United States if there's going to be a new world order. Hopefully there won't be a new world order like they're trying to start anyway. And if they do, it'll be something decent as opposed to something really terrible. I'm not so sure that it's going to be anything really great. Anyway, it is what it is. It'll be an opportunity for somebody to do something. We'll see. Thank you very much. That's it. Over and out.